Welcome to the Legacy Leaders Podcast. Are you doing the best for your client to help them create their legacy? Are you creating a plan that goes far beyond finances to help people ensure that it becomes the driving force behind all decisions? On this podcast, hosts Katie Beth Hand and Stan Miller will help you with growing your practice and your clients' peace of mind. Together, they bring the best and brightest minds to share with you how to help your clients develop their best legacy. And now, here are your hosts, Katie Beth and Stan.
Well, good morning, everyone. This is Jamie Moore, Senior Partner with Moore & Kerboy Counselors at Law. I'm very blessed and privileged today to be your host for the National Legacy Leaders Podcast. And also very blessed to have a good friend and colleague of mine today as our interviewee, Mr. Kevin Yoder from Yoder Real Estate. Known Kevin a long time. He's just a super guy, and he's got some tremendous information to share with us depending on how good I ask the questions. So thanks for joining us, Kevin. Maybe a good way to start is maybe just tell us a little bit about your backstory.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. And by the way, you're right. I think the quality of an interview really comes from the quality of the questions. I know that you ask great questions, so this is going to be a great experience. I appreciate the opportunity. You know, I could start with a joke. An Amishman and a West Virginia coal miner walk into a bar, and the rest is history. Now, I start with that because that's sort of my upbringing. I'll condense the version, but my dad's parents, both Yoders, by the way, grew up in Amish farms, and they married each other. And so, you know, on my dad's side, we were all, I had a lot of Mennonite and Amish relatives, still do, of course. And so that's the first thing people say. Hey, you're Yoder, you must be Amish. Well, just like anything else, any other religion, it's a religion, and one must adopt that. So my dad chose not to. And then my mom's folks came in from West Virginia, moved to Michigan, and they got together in the 70s. And then we moved to Grand Rapids. So fast forward, born and raised in this beautiful place, West Michigan, and got away for a little bit in the 90s. And was going to be a cop. My degree is in criminal justice. And I went down to Atlanta, Georgia, right in the thick of the 96 Olympics, and started to interview for police departments, APD and Douglasville and all around that area. And what I uncovered was that I didn't spend enough time while I was in school really digging deep as to what I wanted to do, what sort of a lifestyle I wanted to have, and how much money I wanted to make and all that. So decided I didn't want to do that. So jumped into sales and started doing door-to-door home security sales. And we talked about that. And that's really how I got my teeth in the sales industry, and decided to come back to Michigan, and 5 years later, and really got into real estate. And the rest, as they say, is history. 24 years in real estate, and launched a coaching business about 5 years ago. That's what I want to do when I grow up, by the way. That's my true passion, is helping entrepreneurs, as you probably know by now. And that's a brief history of me.
Well, thank you. Part of it is the idea that I won't grow up. I don't want to go to school. Who wants to grow up?
Yeah. Right.
Why real estate, though? I mean, obviously, with the tremendous people skills that you have and the love for people, and then to start door to door, good Lord, talk about learning people the hard way. And then, because the complexity of it and the law and its people and it's so many different things. Why real estate?
I love that you asked me that, because I was carving out my new interview process for bringing new team members on the team, real estate agents that we're recruiting. And that's literally the first question I asked that up front, because now I kind of scratch my head. I'm really curious, like, why real estate? But if they answer that they love architecture or they love design or any of those aspects, I really encourage them not to get into real estate if that's really the reason. They should probably be an architect or an interior decorator or some variation thereof. But the reason, going back to door, Jamie, I didn't have any sales skills. I was fresh out of college. I knew criminal justice. I was getting into law enforcement, and I wanted to be in sales. I did. Something was leading me in that direction. They said, well, you can do this. The only place I can get into, it was commission only and door to door. So hard and also simultaneously dangerous, because you had to go to these neighborhoods that were right on the edge, right on the fringe, if you will. I figured it out. I had a great mentor, someone that taught me how to do this thing after banging my head against the wall for about a year, not making any money. And once I moved back to Michigan, I said, okay, now I know how to sell. What can I apply these skills to help people? And I didn't want to sell a widget or to endanger my life. I wanted to do something important. And so real estate happens to be, by the way, I have a very, I don't know, I have a predisposition towards uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that. I need and novelty and having things be challenging and different. And that includes the people. And what I realized is that real estate, I think there's nothing else like it. We could just spend about a whole day and a half or 5 days researching anything like being a full-time real estate professional. And the reason is because it requires all of people skills, influence, negotiation, marketing, prospecting based, telemarketing, if you will, in some door to door, but ultimately psychology and all of these things into one. And that's not for everybody. So it's tough. That's what I love about it, and I love working with people and the different types of people I get to meet. And it's just kept me going for 23 years. And it's how important to know, Jamie, before I got into real estate, I sat down one day and listed all my jobs. I had 34 before
Wow.
I turned 30. So
Wow.
about 34 things I had done, from newspaper delivery to slinging pizzas at Little Caesars to delivering pizzas at Domino's to working in the Mark Farms to being a security guard to being undercover security guard to working as a lifeguard. I mean, the list went on and on. And I was like, little Billy from Family Circus, where he just kind of like, you know, went all over the place. And then you look at his map after his long day and you realize, he was just finding his way home. I was trying to figure out what this thing I could do that I could settle into. And I did.
It's probably one of the
And
reasons we're kindred spirits, because when you say it that way, from starting selling garden seeds and Christmas cards door to door at age 12, and then picking beans, and then, I mean, everything from drywall to the Marine Corps to karate to instructor. I mean, yeah,
wow.
when you add it all up, it's like, oh my gosh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And well, I'm not really
Yeah.
quite sure. What
Yeah.
would you say? What would you say that you enjoy the most and the least of this your career in this business? Because there's legal, personal, professional, tax, and personality complexity to what you do. You don't just go out and list somebody's house and it's done
Yeah.
deal. There's got to be stuff about it that you, for those of us that are novices in your industry, what do you like them least and the most
Yeah.
about?
What I love the most about it is it really is. I crave the challenge, believe it or not. That's maybe something that most people don't. The idea that we have the ability to influence people to take action in their best interest, and they don't always, in fact, many times they don't see it that way in the beginning. And to know that I've developed nearly a quarter of a century of skills in the area of influence, meaning let me take you by the hand and walk you down a path that is in your best interest, and taking someone from a cold start sometimes. And then at the end, not only are we working together, but then we become friends in the process. And I really value that. I love the idea of being able to be a cause to the effect of my own success as well. We like to say we start at zero every day. And that means that there's no guarantee. I got a call today that I put a home under contract, 5 days ago, and it went out of contract as of an hour ago. So I'm talking to you today, right now, calmly while that just happened. And knowing that I've been down that road 1,000 times, I will fix the problem and I will go right back in under contract again. And knowing that I have the capacity to do that. And at the end of the day, that someone can trust me. I have it. I've got it. And they know that when it's put into my capable hands, that I'm able to get them to where they need to be. And so there's a few things in there, is being a cause and knowing that I don't have to run this up the flagpole of some corporate entity to get an answer or to make things happen. If I want to make something happen, I make it happen, or I enlist my team to help me do. And then the other part that I don't like, I've been doing this a long time, Jamie. So I say things that I have to back it up with a follow-up statement when I'm talking to agents getting into the industry, because when you're first getting in, you've got to be willing to do some things and have some conversations. And yet I do as well, but I don't necessarily love them. Like I don't enjoy having the the granular, the conversations about water heaters and furnaces and things of that nature, only because I'm more a big picture. I like to hover here. And if I need to get down in the weeds and get my hands dirty, I will, but I prefer not to. And I think that's really it. But
Part of that is the philosophy that we embrace. Benjamin Franklin said the quality of your life depends on how much uncertainty you're willing to deal with and what type of goals you set. So it's a perfect blend for you. And it's the similarities with our industry, with what people would call estate planning. And of course, it's asset protection. And they don't know how it works. They don't know who to ask. They don't know where to start. They don't know what to say. I'm supposed to do something. I just don't know what to do. So that beginning of just what are your fears? What kept you awake at 2 o'clock this morning about this? So it's the similarities are just striking to me.
yeah, I see that.
What do you think that is just your opinion now? The different real estate associations and the different broker dealers that are out there, and the big nationwide real estate houses, if you will, all the way down to Smith and Son in the backyard that does one deal every 10 years or something. But after the licensing, the associations providing training, I see a tremendous lack in subjects related to the impact of your real estate. With your estate, you got an estate, but now you own a biggest asset in your life. And do you get into those questions? Do people ask you those kinds of questions? It's more.
That's a great question.
Than just a chunk of real estate.
Well, I think you just hit on the biggest challenge of the industry, Jamie. So anytime you have a low barrier of entry industry with a potential upside in the millions, you create a problem. And I would say it's a pretty large issue, meaning you can get, I always say you can get a Groupon for it. I know you can, but let's just go back a year ago. I haven't looked in a while, but there was a Groupon for $99 to get your 40-hour pre-licensed course. And so whenever you can get your pre-licensed course to be a licensed agent and then take an exam after that for all in maybe $300, and now you've been handed the keys to someone's castle. The problem then is the consumer's not educated, not so much their fault, but because there aren't a lot of tools to look at to determine. We don't wear signs around our necks that say our stats, right? So the stats would be, how long have I been in the business? How many homes do I sell every year? What's my sales price, list price ratio? Here are my Google reviews and average, and research the heck out of me. That sort of contained database doesn't exist. So the seller consumer is left going with their nephew that just got his or her license, or their niece has got her license. And the problem with that is we want to give business to friends and family, but that doesn't mean that they're going to have the best experience. And then thousands and thousands of dollars are on the line. And there's a saying, a quote from Dan Sullivan, which is the other Dan that I admire, is that our eyes only see and our ears only hear what our brains are looking for. And so despite the fact that they know that their nephew just got their license, or it could be their brother or their aunt, they haven't thought this through. This is a challenging industry. There are tools in our tool belt as agents that we have. And I like to say we deploy, let's say, 100 tools in the tool belt to sell a house. Well, the new agent might only know about how to use 2 of those tools. And it's because at the brokerage level, you said association, but I knew you meant like individual brokerages, whether it's local, schmokel, or the nationwide or the global brand. They all have tools. How well that information gets from the broker's mind or the online training courses into the agent's head and then into their day-to-day tactical work is the biggest gap. That's the biggest problem. So they may have training. Do the agents take it? How well is it laid out in a way that's easy to learn and understand? Most of the time, Jamie, the answer is it's not enough. It's not enough of the right stuff. It's not teaching them the things that they really need to learn. Learning how to fill out a contract is what they focus on. A purchase agreement is a 6-pager. I could teach my 15-year-old son how to do it in about an afternoon. So the training needs to be more over on how do I really connect with people? How do I move, right? That's really it. I mean, it's just a focus on the wrong stuff. And then how to sell not only yourself, but then how to market a property effectively so that it actually gets done. So there's a lot there.
It's a perfect lead into my next question. You must be clairvoyant. Although when I say that to my partner, Richard, he said, you can't be clairvoyant. I said, why not, Richard? He says, because I dated clairvoyant in high school. And the probably didn't work because she always knew what he was thinking. But
Well, yeah, that's good. I
has
love
to
it.
do with in our industry and the other advisors I work with professionally, it seems like there's being bandied about right now this phrase of, I'm your trusted advisor. I want to be your
Mm,
trusted advisor. And when it relates to you as a personal visionary coach, it's a different than as a real estate professional. So do you find that too, or even the new person, as you say, it's a low entry barrier? Got my license, woo woo, I can fill in blanks on a contract, I'm ready to roll, and I'm your trusted advisor. How would you define? I know I do it with my financial advisors, and they freak out. Would you say you're your client's trusted advisor? I'd say, yeah, of course I am. Well, would you like my definition first? Oh, geez, okay. Has your advice and counsel, Kevin, been so valuable that they might want to pass you along as part of their estate
mm.
planning because you've been that trusted to them? That's
Yeah.
in my industry. How would you define it for us?
I would define that as somebody as a fiduciary, and that means that someone who looks out for another person. And in the way I explain it to my clients, I like to bring my clients into the conversation and give them an analogy that can connect and they understand it, and then give them an example of that. So, Jamie, for example, if I'm selling your house, I would say, Jamie, I'm your fiduciary. A fiduciary is somebody who looks out for the best interest of someone else, looks over them and watches over them. That's the root, that's the origin of that word. And what that means is that my job is to look out for your best interest and put your interest above the interests of everybody else, including my own. Meaning, everything is about your best interest. I put my interest secondary and at the very bottom of that list, and in such a way that it's obvious to you at the end of the road, at the closing table, that when paperwork is being signed, that you know that I did everything in my power to protect you. And protection comes in all forms, but I say protection comes in the forms of making it short, a short timeline. Even though we love our clients, we don't want to be together for a year because that's not going to work for anybody. Two, protecting mostly their greatest asset, which means I've done everything I can to squeeze every penny of your hard-earned equity out of your property. And you know it and you see it come in the form of a check. And the third one is make it super smooth and easy. Move out the bumps in the process because it can be a rocky road. But if you know what you're doing and you've been down this before, you can get in
And
front of a lot of that.
I suggest to you that's an outstanding explanation. I just don't
Mm.
find it to be the norm. So that's, I would say,
Yeah.
if I were to say the number one thing I'd like people to know about Kevin is exactly that. That's the term we use with your estate plan. When you pick your helpers in your plan, they are a
Mm.
fiduciary. We made them look up the definition. Then it's make my brother do it, make my sister do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's above and beyond the call of duty, which I think makes that unique.
Yeah.
But what would you say was the number one thing people should know about you beyond that professional statement you just made?
Well, that's a really good question. If you were to run it through the same filter we're discussing now in terms of hiring a professional, and it's hard. I see it from the clients or the real estate consumers perspective, being able to hover above this conversation, and I see it being a challenge because how do you know? I mean, how do you know you're in capable hands? You don't know until you've got into it, right? And it's too late because I come pick up the pieces and pick up the mess that someone else has made quite often. I would say of the thousands of homes I've helped, I would say I've done that 500 times where someone didn't do it. And I listen to the horror stories and it's costing people money. I would say that it's important to know that someone has a quarter century experience. That's very important. And not just because they have that, but because if somebody is learning based and is involved and is a lifelong learner, I'm not only just somebody who learned something in 2001 and continue to do the same thing over and over again, but rather every year, because the more we do something, the better we get at it if we're intentional about it. And so imagine having 24 going on 25 years of that progression and learning every time I do it and then teaching my team how to do it. So that's one thing, is just knowing that somebody that about me, is that's what you asked me, is not only my experience, but I'm continually, I believe in CANI, CANI, which constant and never ending improvement.
Thank you,
So that
Tony Robbins.
yeah, right, exactly. That's where I learned it from, right? Standing 5 feet in front of me. And
Yeah.
so that's important because as this real estate landscape is changing more now in the last 2 years and continues to than it has in the last 20 years, rapid, that there's somebody that you're working with, like myself, there are others that are on the leading edge and continue to stay sharp in the industry and applying what are the latest, best tactics to the overall strategy of getting a property moved or helping you find your dream home.
Well, and the key phrase you made as I listened to you talk is being intentional about your
Yeah.
learning. You know, some
Yeah.
people, it's, how long did the Israel go around the mountain? 40 years of running around the mountain, and they never did learn nothing. It's,
Yeah.
experience isn't always the best teacher, but it's the most thorough, but only if you pay attention.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the next question has to do with when we ask for our clients, ourselves first, and it would be an avatar, as in, Kennedy and Sullivan both talk about what is your, quote, ideal client. And for us, it's got nothing to do with how much money they have. Are they coachable, teachable? Do they care about their family? Do they have kids cashing a clue? And will they listen to professional advice? If not, I don't care if they got 10 cents or they're, so how would you help us find your avatar client? What would that look like for Yoder Realty?
Yeah, that's a really great question. No one's ever asked me that, Jamie, because usually it goes the other way around. But that's interesting because we work with EOS, which is Entrepreneurs Operating System, and we
Yep.
follow that process of traction. But they have us identify our ideal avatar in our target market. And the challenge with real estate is
Who's your implementer?
well, we're in between right now. But I've had,
Okay.
I've had a really amazing implementer, and then
Okay.
like sort of
Sorry to
like,
chase that.
no,
Sorry to
you're
chase
good.
that rabbit, but if you need
No,
help, go ahead.
oh, I
It's
see.
okay.
Yeah. Are you okay? Are you an implementer?
No, but I network in my business
Oh,
group. There's 3 of them, and they're all good with it.
got
So,
it. Okay. And I probably know them, but yeah.
sorry to chase that rabbit. Back to my
No, you're
question.
good, but you're familiar with the concept. So, but with real estate, it is difficult to say this is our avatar. So if I wanted to say, wealthy homeowners between blank and blank in price point in this particular neighborhood, well, the problem is that if you have an aunt that would like to have her home sold in Saugatuck, I'm going to help her, Jamie. I will help her. And so I don't have a lot of hard and fast rules for that. My avatar is somebody who has a need that I can fulfill. There are certain things I can't, I can't do certain things. I will not sell a mobile home 500 miles from here in the UP. Would I? Sure, but it's out of my element and I'm not going to drive anyway. There's certain things that I won't do. But
Okay.
as I talk to the individual, so they have a need that I can fulfill. 2 is, can I work with you? So there aren't a lot of rules. These are kind of the golden rules, which is like, are you kind? Are you kind? Like, so when I talk with a potential seller or buyer, is this somebody who is a kind person? And we don't need to be babied. I have different personalities, but is somebody I can work with and is open, then finally is open to following a particular process. We say that, train our agents that when we call an attorney and they have a process, a proven process, and it's a process that works and it's tried and true, and they follow a system, the 5 steps, this is how we do it here. The person that calls in and asks for their guidance, they're not the one in charge. They're not
Right.
the ones that, they're not calling the shots, because we call
Yep.
the pro for a reason. And so if we're talking to somebody and they want to, reinvent the wheel and take my proven home selling system, for example, and try to hybrid it and try to make it into a for sale by owner hybrid, I will not work with you, because if I know what happens on the other side, the result cannot be the same. No different than if you tried to jack with the Coca-Cola formula back in the 1980s. New Coke was a disaster. And so
Yeah.
we can't have that. There's a proven system. We follow it. And when we do it, it works. And when we try to rip stuff out of it or change it in any way, it doesn't. So that's what I would say.
Seems like it's the most comforting thing I'll share with a client, especially a business owner, is we don't have the solution. We have a process to help you figure out. It's not our job to set your goals for you. It's to
Yeah.
help you accomplish them if they're
Yeah.
legal, moral, and ethical, and that's the deal. Aren't you just going to tell me what to do? Well, not really. Then it's my
Yeah.
plan. So I get it.
Right. Yeah.
So how do we find Yoder Realty? How do we get in touch with you, Kevin? I'm sure there'll be follow-up questions. Your process is fascinating, way beyond anything I've experienced in my blah years of doing this since Old Testament days. So you are the exception that proves the rule. So how do we get a hold of you?
Yeah, so there's a few ways. You can go to our website, which is it's quite simply soldbyyoder.com.
And
Sold,
Yoder is Yoder, right?
yeah, Yoder.
So
Yep.
sold,
And then you
SOLDBY.com.
SOLDBYODER.com.
Okay.
Yep, and you can find our YouTube channel. I'm going to get you the Real Estate Revealed. Real Estate Revealed is our YouTube channel, and you can get to it. I'm trying to find the exact handle, but if you just went to YouTube and just typed in at the Kevin Yoder, that's my name. You can get to our YouTube channel there. And our YouTube channel is under a revamp right now, meaning it's still going to be me and it's still the team, but we're changing the direction that we go with what I'm sharing with content. I went kind of all like real estate revealed, like these are some things you can't find anywhere else. What I realized is that what people really want to know about is the community. And
Yeah.
they wanted to connect with somebody that really knows the area. I know the doctors, I know the attorneys, I know the restaurants, I know the schools. And
Yep.
that's just going to be a far better way to approach this YouTube channel because it's a lot of work. And if I'm
Yep.
making video content and I'm getting out there helping people, I should probably focus it in an area that. So that's a transition. Our channel exists and I gave you the handle, but you can still just stay tuned for the new version of our YouTube.
Okay. So we're out
Yeah.
of time today, Kevin. Wonderful talking to you as
You as
usual. And I
well.
want to continue the dialogue and build our professional relationship. As we've said many times, our job is to have fun, help people, and make money for everybody. So you're right on board with our
Absolutely.
philosophy, and I'm just so pleased to have you here on Legacy Leaders. So we'll see you next time. Maybe we'll have you on again because I know you're going to get 1,000 million gazillion hits from this thing, and I'll have to be your professional agent from this point forward. So thanks
That'd be
for
awesome,
joining.
Jamie. You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
You've been listening to the Legacy Leaders Podcast with Katie Beth Hand and Stan Miller. For more information on them and the show, please visit pinnaclelegacylaw.com. If you like what you've learned today, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.